you're going to see how you can create an image similar to this. So this is a surrealistic image of a man sitting on the edge of a coffee cup. His feet are dipping into the coffee and we see his reflection in the cup. Okay, so to begin, you need to create a cutout of the man. I have this in high speed. I'm just selecting him with the quick select tool, and then I'm going to use select and mask, and I'm just going to make sure that all his hair and anything around his body is in fact selected, and nothing unwanted is still in the image. So I am selecting this guy, and I'm going to output this so he is on a new layer with a layer mask. Next, I'm going to use the ripple, and I'm going to use the elliptical marquee tool, and I'm going to select around the ripple and create a layer mask so that this is masked out around the edges. Now, I'm going to take the guy and I'm going to put him onto the cup. I did a little bit of rearranging the background because I didn't want him to be sitting at an angle. So I actually angled the cup so he could look like he's nice and straight. Now I've applied his mask and created a new layer mask. And I'm going to use the paintbrush with a fuzzy edge. And I'm going to make my black brush set to a lower opacity than 100%. So I'm going to lower that away from 100%, and I'm going to paint over his feet. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make it look like his feet are dipping into that coffee. Now, coffee is made out of water, so it's slightly transparent. It's not completely opaque. So I took a mask brush and I'm just setting it to a low opacity, and I'm going to make sure his feet look like it's in the coffee, but they're not completely just severed. They're not just cut off by the coffee. You'll notice that I also kind of snuck into where his shorts are and kind of just made that a little bit less prominent so it wasn't sticking down as far. And then I constantly kind of worked on these feet. So they look like, they're going into the coffee where the orange part of the coffee is. I want that to be a little bit more opaque, and then they'll be more transparent as they get into the darker part of the coffee. But you just have to kind of work with it so that it looks right. He should definitely not look like his feet just got cut off or severed by the coffee. And of course, I wanted the colors to match, so I went to image adjustments, and I had matched the color, and that definitely helps out. Okay, so next I'm going to pull in the mask of the ripple, and I'm going to scale it down so that it can be around his ankle. This ripple was created with blue water, but I want it to look like it's coming from coffee. So first I want to go to the coffee layer and use a lasso and just select the coffee color. And then I'm going to hit Command J so that I have a coffee layer of just coffee. So I'm going to name this coffee. The purpose of this is I'm going to match the color. So now if I go to Image Adjustments, Match Color, the source that I want is this image that I've been working with, so the coffee pitcher, and then the layer will be coffee, and you can see that it kind of matches. And now I just have to work with these sliders. It had this like purple and pink color that I definitely don't want, but I just wanted to get the browns of that coffee. So again, it takes a little finagling based on the pictures that you have, but I'm going to try to get this to match the best that I can. Now once you hit OK, you're back to your layers, and I want to try to just use some of my blending layers. And so I'm just using the different blending modes, and I'm going to see if any of those blending modes work well with making it look like a ripple. And so I found soft light worked for this. And now I just want to take a fuzzy brush and I'm going to mask this off of his ankle. And then I'm going to take the brush and make sure that the edges of this ripple don't look so harsh. I want to make it look like it's not a pitcher on top of a pitcher, but it's just part of the coffee getting rippled because he stuck his foot in there. So I'm just lowering the opacity, using my layer mask, and working with this. Once you're satisfied with one ripple, you can duplicate the layer and put a ripple on the other foot. And again, try some blending modes. I ended up changing this to difference because they looked really nice on difference instead of just soft light. So difference was what I ended up going with. Now I just didn't like the background being transparent, so I just made a new layer. So I put black in the background. And now I'm going to work on his reflection. So I'm going to duplicate his layer by hitting Command J and making a new guy. And I'm going to turn him upside down. Now, when you're creating composite images, it's always a good idea to reference the real world. So I wanted to see some real world examples of what reflections look like in coffee. So I noticed as I looked through these reflections, usually the picture takes on the coffee color. There's very harsh contrast. And so I wanted to make sure that I did that with this guy. And I'm changing my blending modes, and I'm just going to adjust him as much as I can so he looks more like a transparent reflection. Now I am masking him off. And now a reflection is sometimes distorted. So I'm going to go to him and go to Edit, Transform, Warp. And I'm going to warp this so he's a little bit more rounded. Now I don't want to totally make it so he's not recognizable. He's already upside down, but I just want to kind of curve him a little bit more. And after I do this, you're going to see that I have to, bring him a little bit more back with my masking brush. So I'm going to bring back that mask. And again, I might have to readjust him later, but I can do that. Once I was satisfied with the look, I just tried different blending modes and working with the opacity just to see if there was anything that really made it look like he was truly a reflection. So I ended up using difference and turning it to a lower opacity. You could even adjust the contrast in adjustments if you wanted to. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is flatten this image and work with some render options. So I'm going to go to Filter, Render, Lighting Effects, just to try to get the lighting just right on him. You're going to see that I wrapped this up, trying lighting effects. I tried going to image adjustments and trying, just different things to make sure that this image looked as real as I could make it. Don't miss the details because your audience, when they look at your picture, they're definitely going to notice if something's wrong. So pay attention to your details. Even though this is a goofy, surrealistic, it could not happen in real life, we want to make it look as if it really could be happening in real life with those little details.